Hello, friends. Back again on this topic. What I wanted to talk about today was the issue of motivation. What motivates people who want to, the most charitable word would be investigate, I guess, research lost, advanced Ice Age civilization, or to push ideas about it, or really to do any of those things in kind of the wider sphere of topics that fall under pseudoscience. Why? Why do people do it? I used to have a slide in my presentations or when I talked about this sort of thing where I kind of talked about 4 motivations, but as I've been thinking about it, I think there are really only 3, or at least I'm going to narrow it down to 3 today. You know, archaeologists love to classify things and put things in bins, and obviously human behavior doesn't fit so nicely in those bins a lot of the time. But I can identify 3, I guess, aspects or kinds of motivation that I have seen time and time again. Number 1 is, and it's the best one, it's the one that motivates a lot of us, no matter kind of where we fall on the spectrum, and that is genuine curiosity. This is what motivates, I would say, the vast majority of quote-unquote mainstream archaeologists. We actually want to understand the past and know what happened. And I don't doubt that that same motivation is present in a lot of people who I guess would be placed on the fringe side or outside of the mainstream. They are genuinely curious. They would like to know what happened in the past, and they feel for whatever reason that the kind of standard scientific approach to archaeology isn't getting them there. So they're curious. That's motivation number 1. Motivation number 2 is money. Money. There is a lot of money to be made in selling books, selling ideas, appearing on things, whatever. And with social media and the ability to monetize your content, when you have a lot of followers, you can apparently make some serious cash. I wouldn't know because I don't have a lot of followers and I don't make that kind of cash. I should have my first $100 from YouTube is somewhere in the mail on the way. I don't even know how they are going to pay me. Watershed moment for me. I'll take you all out to lunch. All of you. All 1,597 of you. You have to divide that $100 amongst us though. So you can't order the steak. You can't. Anyway, money is a big motivator. And if you look at, you know, the video I made before about Graham Hancock, one of his points of pride is that he has made enough money that he can support his interest in this stuff, which I think some of that is rooted in genuine curiosity. Getting paid is important. And I think a lot of the people on YouTube who like to run their mouths all the time are in it for the money also, or at least that's a part of it. Number 3 is ideology. Huge motivator. And this ideology blanket covers a lot of different things. It covers religion, people who have an axe to grind about whether the Bible is true or not, Christian fundamentalists. There's political motivations. I guess you'd throw white supremacy in there. That's an ideological motivation. And you guys don't want to hear it, but there is a lot of it in pseudoarchaeology. One of the guys who was writing books about giants.
AM and many other white nationalists and mainstream talk shows. He was adopted as an 8-month-old baby boy, and his name was legally changed to Patrick Chouinard, and he wrote 3 books under this name. Patrick's loyalties are to the white Aryan race first and foremost. He considered himself a cultural Christian, respectful of the role Christianity has played in the history of our race.
You know, Frank Joseph, who was the Nazi pedophile, changed his name and started writing books about Atlantis. We all know Hitler. Do we, though? Do we know Hitler? Right into pure state. There's religious motivations, there's political motivations, there's nationalist motivations. A lot of the pseudoarchaeology that you see from overseas, you know, Bosnian Pyramid, stuff from India that I've mentioned here and there. There's a lot of reasons why people want the past to fit their narratives. The last one that I used to talk about, the 4th one, was mental illness. Now, there is a lot of mental illness in pseudoarchaeology, people seeing faces in rocks and making connections where there are none. And I am not trying to make fun of mental illness, but like I've seen it. Every archaeologist who interacts with the public, I would guess, has been exposed to people who they think have some kind of issue that is preventing them from engaging fully with reality, let's just say. And so we see that all the time in the pseudoarchaeological world. I'm not going to talk about that as a motivation because I don't really think of it as a motivation. That's kind of a layer that is present sometimes and not present other times. It's not really anything conscious that people can control, I guess. So when I think of these three motivations, curiosity, money, and ideology, I think about them in a Venn diagram with overlapping circles. So in one circle, you've got curiosity, and another, you've got money, and in another, you've got ideology, and they all overlap. All three combinations overlap. So you can be motivated by all three of those things, or you can be motivated by two of them, or you can be mainly motivated by one of them. Graham Hancock, the top dog of the ancient advanced lost civilization, I would say is motivated by curiosity to some extent, or was at some point, probably still is. I don't know, not inside the guy's head. And is also clearly motivated by money, as he has said. He's very proud of his record in selling things. Is he motivated by ideology? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe there's something in there, but to me, that's not a current that comes across really, really strongly. You know, has he said some things that I think are pretty fairly called racist? Yeah. But do I think that he's motivated by racist ideology? No, I don't. He might not even be conscious that some of the things he says are racist or have racist roots. I don't know. But to me, that's not a super strong current. But like Ignatius Donnelly, who wrote The Antediluvian World in 1882, I think he was motivated by curiosity. I don't know whether he was motivated by money. I don't know how much money there was in publishing books back in the day. But surely he was motivated by ideology also. And I think it's apparent when you read that book. And I will be returning to the whole Aryanism, white Atlantis question as promised eventually. People like Robert Sepehr, somebody in the comments said, oh, you should start debunking Robert Sepehr. How do you pronounce his name? I don't know. It doesn't matter. This stuff is super ideological as far as I'm concerned. I don't know that there's really actually any curiosity there. I think he has a point that he is trying to make, and that's where he is coming from. Is there a financial motivation there? I don't know. Could be, but the ideology is pretty plain. People like L.A. Marzulli, definitely motivated by a religious ideology. He wants all of the stuff, all the fantastical stuff that happened in the Bible to be true, and he wants to be able to fit all of these things that we study in the natural world somehow into the supernatural world of the Bible. That's important to him. It's his main motivating factor, as far as I can tell. He also makes money. That's his livelihood, so that's an important component too. I think both of those things can coexist. Is he curious? If I had to guess, I would say, yeah, he actually does have some legitimate curiosity. So I would probably put him in the middle of all of those things. Bible Giants people definitely have an ideological motivation, and I'm pretty sure some of them had pretty strong feelings or desire to take your money.
Or we have all three of LAs on the trail of the Nephilim. And for your gift of $25, shipping included, you can get this latest DVD.
So anyway, that's my take on motivations. I would put myself in the curious camp. I probably could have done a lot of things in my life if I was more interested in making money than being a professional archaeologist. I'm not complaining. Don't worry about me. But I'm not in it for the money. And I don't think I'm in it for the ideology. In fact, there are times in my life when I have reacted to what I see as kind of ideological imperatives in ways that maybe didn't help me as a student or as a professional. I don't know. I just want to try to get it right. So far, the best way I've seen to do that is to use actual science rather than made up science. So that's my quick take on the motivational spectrum. I'm not a psychologist, but I think it's worthwhile to think about where people are coming from. And in terms of having discussions, like real discussions, which, you know, the title of this series is Arguing About a Lost Civilization. If you are a curious person, I can talk to you and we can talk about facts. And, you know, I would say that the people who I've gotten along best with and on the alternative and fringe side are those who are centered in that curiosity space rather than in the I need to make money space or I've got an axe to grind. Those kind of people I've had a lot less productive and constructive interactions with. But curiosity, great. I'm there for it. And as long as you're operating the scientific framework, it doesn't really matter where those ideas are coming from. Even if you have, say, a money-making or an ideological motivation, if you're able to see when an idea is wrong and able to take that conclusion that the idea is wrong and factor it into your thinking, then you are operating in a scientific framework, maybe no matter what your motivation is. It's a lot easier to do, I think, if you are just curious, because you don't then feel like you need to sell stuff that is more outrageous, that you know is wrong. You don't tend to repeat things that you know are wrong, like a lot of you guys do, including like Graham Hancock with his squaring the circle baloney. I guess I think it's easier when you are just curious and you're not attached to your money-making ego or your ideology to admit when you get something wrong and to back off. And that's why it is probably the best spot to be in as a scientist. And if you find yourself in those two other arenas trying to prove something right or demonstrate that it's right because you really want to believe it and you want to show that, that's a tough spot to be in. And it's a tough spot from which to try to convince those of us who take this stuff seriously, who are more firmly grounded, let's say, have both feet planted in that curiosity circle, that what you have is worth talking about, considering, whatever. So that's my 2 cents on that, on the motivation. More to come later. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.